In this video, we're going to cover some of the basic concepts of Flux. Flux is comprised of two windows. The main window is the editor window, where you'll edit your sequences. The inspector window is an inspector that is tied to the main window, instead of overtaking Unity's inspector. The reason for a custom inspector is to create a better workflow. A lot of times in Unity, you need to access other objects, and having to select them back and forth simply isn't productive. Let's take a closer look at the editor window first. The editor window is where you start using Flux. It allows you to select sequences and also create new ones. To create a new sequence, simply click on the plus button. As you can see in the upper left of the window, we're editing this new sequence. When you select the sequence, the appearance of the window changes. You now have some of the most important settings of the sequence exposed in the upper right, and it also enables the playback controls in the bottom. In the upper right, you can set the frame rate at which the sequence will play, when it gets updated, and how long it is. At the moment, given that the sequence is playing at 60 frames per second and has 600 frames, it means that the sequence is 10 seconds long. Let's adjust the length to be 2 seconds long. This sequence is still empty. To start populating it, we simply need to drag objects from the hierarchy. Dragging an object to the sequence window creates a timeline for that object, which is also known as the owner of the timeline. Timelines per se don't do anything, they just work as a container for tracks. Tracks allow you to do something on the owner. For example, if we want to enable or disable the owner, we'll add a track that will contain events that will make this happen. Adding tracks is easy. To do so, just click in the plus button in the timeline header and add a track you want. For example, let's try and add a track that shows and hides a cube in the scene. To do so, let's go to Game Object, Set Active. When adding a track, by default it adds an event to it. Notice how the selected event is now shown in the Flux inspector. Besides showing the selected events, the inspector also shows the selected tracks. To edit this event, we can simply change its properties in the inspector, or in some cases, you can directly change them in the editor window. To preview what the sequence is doing, we can use the controls in the toolbar at the bottom. It allows you to scrub by clicking the mouse at the bottom of the timeline. You have your regular timeline controls on the left and your view range on the right. View range not only lets you narrow down your editing view, but also constrains the playback in order to help you focus on what exactly you're working on. To add new events, you simply select the tracks you want to add them to, set the current frame to where you want to add them, then press K. As you see, it is possible to edit multiple events at the same time. Flux always tries to preserve what you did, so if you decide to resample the frame rate, it will adjust the events in order to maintain the same timings. Also, something very important is support for undo. We've gone through major efforts in order to ensure that Flux plays nicely with Unity. Notice that if we save the scene and then scrub the sequence, it doesn't dirty the scene. We do this whenever possible, however, because of how some of the things work in Unity, it isn't always possible. To play this sequence, you can either trigger it in code or mark it as play on start in the inspector. Thanks for watching.